Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Yes, I'm Biased, but Here's Why. I'm your host, Monique James. This is a podcast where we dive into polarizing topics and explore the things that influence how we feel about those topics. Dare I say, our own bias. So please, share, like, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's dive into today's topic. Growing up, there were many things I aspired to be. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I wanted to be a writer. Many different things. I actually became none of those things, but that's not really the point. The point is, we all have dreams, aspirations, especially as children. The people in our lives encourage us to be certain things. Some people, like my mom, encourage you to be anything that you want to be. My mom's only requirement for myself and my brother and sister was that we didn't use the word can't. We were not allowed to limit ourselves. So, fantastic. Here's, the world's in front of you. You could be anything. I can also tell you what I did not want to be, and that was a teenage mother. Certainly all of the after school specials and the public service announcements and the chiding from family you don't want to be a teenage mother. Once we got old enough and knew how that could happen, then we were expected to prevent it. We could talk about that in another podcast, but certainly being a teenage mother was not anything to aspire to. But regardless of whether women are having babies as teenagers or later in life, we've got to have babies, right? That's the only way that the population continues. I was recently reading an article that said fertility rates are dropping except among older women. According to the article, the number of older mothers is growing more rapidly than the number of younger mothers. According to a 2018 New York Times analysis, there are some discrepancies around geography and education. First-time moms who are older are usually in big cities and on the coasts. And first-time moms are younger in rural areas. Now, the reasons for this, obviously, I'm painting with a broad brush. This is what some of the research says. Certainly, this is not true for every woman in either geographical or age bracket. So, I just want to state that I know I'm painting with a broad brush, but this is just for the sake of our conversation. So, the statistics say that first-time moms are older in big cities because women in big cities and on the coasts tend to delay motherhood while pursuing higher education. In contrast, women in rural areas are less likely to delay motherhood because they are generally not waiting as they pursue higher education. There are several reasons that some women wait until they're older to become first-time moms. Some of those are not being forced into marriage, waiting for the right partner, wanting to climb the ranks in education and career, wanting to be more financially settled and prepared, and wanting to spend some time being selfish. Some people agree that some people are against this trend and really believe that women should have babies younger. Some people are fully supportive of women having babies older. Doesn't actually matter what other people think. It only really matters what the childbearing women think, but there are opinions out there. So there's something to consider for women who have never been mothers. Do they want to be spring chickens when they give birth for the first time, or when they carry their first child? Or do they want to be what the medical profession calls advanced maternal age? That's referring to a woman who's pregnant at 35 or older, advanced maternal age. 35 doesn't seem that old to me to have a baby, but hey, what do I know? Lots of people have an opinion about this, and I'm no different. Truth is, I'm biased against older first-time motherhood. But let me tell you why. I was pregnant for the first and last time ever at 38 years old. I was advanced maternal age. My takeaway as I raise my 9.5-month-old son: motherhood is a young woman's game. For most of my life, I was 100% sure I did not want children. Much of that was due to the fact that I saw motherhood as being really difficult, but also one of those things that you don't have room for error. I mean, if I mess up at my job at, say, an auto dealership, maybe I don't make a lot of sales. Maybe I consistently don't make a lot of sales and I get fired and I just get another job somewhere, right? That's awful. The thought of failing as a parent was just something that I was never, ever interested in. If you mess up as a parent, you could raise like a terrorist or something. I mean, the thought of failing at parenting was always overwhelming, and 100% of the reason why I was like, nah, not for me. I've got, other people in my life who have children, and I can just borrow theirs or hang out with theirs and then return them. That was my mantra my entire youth. Fast forward to, late 20s, early 30s, as I start to think about whether or not I will eventually get married and what that will look like. And then I started to wonder if I was being a little bit too close-minded about children. So the older I got, the deeper I got into my 30s, I started to wonder if that was the right approach. And then I started to think that maybe it's not that I don't want children, but I'm afraid of the idea of failing as a parent. And so I had some conversations with people in my life, and they were just kind of like, you can't think of that. If you're blessed to have a child, then you figure it out. So the deeper I got into my 30s, my mindset started to shift, especially as I started to consider getting married. And not that I hadn't been considering that all along. It was certainly not my plan to not get married until I was older. But in any event, I started to think about it a little bit more. And I came to the conclusion that I wanted to marry a man who made me want to have children with him. And that was the idea that I ran with. That's how I felt. No, I was not one of these women who was like, if I don't have a baby, my life is not fulfilled, or, this is my biggest, the thing that I'm most concerned about in life. This will complete me as a person. Never felt that way, especially because I watched people in my life raise children, and it was just so hard. Not that there wasn't joy involved, but I was always like, man, that's just a lot. They can't go places when they want to. They always have to get a babysitter. Sometimes that babysitter was me. It was just so much. And I thought to myself, do I really want to do that? But, as you mature, you get older, you start to think of things differently, maybe a little less selfishly. That was what I came to, that I wanted to marry a man who made me want to have children with him. So there I was, newly married and pregnant at 38 years old. it certainly was on the table. We knew that we eventually wanted children. Didn't necessarily plan for it to be as quickly as it was, but it happened. So I'm 38. Every doctor's appointment I'm going to, every single doctor is using the term advanced maternal age. Now, we were happy. My husband and I were happy when we found out that I was pregnant. Awesome. Gonna have a baby. This is great. Now let's just walk through it. We've got to learn everything. We've got to find the right medical professionals. We went through that whole thing. We saw one doctor didn't work out, went all the way to Pennsylvania, and we did the whole thing. We were into it. They just kept talking about advanced maternal age. Even some of them admitting that there's nothing magical that happens at 35 that is negative. It's just a term that they use because they consider it more risky starting at 35. Okay, great. But I had to hear advanced maternal age my entire pregnancy, and it was just aggravating. Even with that, we were positive. We're going to walk through it and things are going to be good. Boy, did I get punched in the throat. The entire 3 months, the first 3 months of my pregnancy, I was sick. I was nauseous. I never actually threw up, not even one time, but I feel like being nauseous and not throwing up is worse. So there was this, annoying experience of 3 months of waking up feeling like I'm going to throw up, going through the day like I'm going to throw up. And I was working and, going into the office. It was just a lot. That experience is not unique to me. I recognize that, it's the least of my worries. I get it. A lot of women have sickness. But that first 3 months was like, this is annoying. And then I started to be like, is this a good idea? I mean, I'm here now. It's not like I could change it. But at the same time, I'm like questioning, is this the right thing? Then I hit the second trimester and I feel really good. I'm working out every day, doing CrossFit. And don't be alarmed. I had great coaches. I had a coach who was trained in birth fit. My OB told me she worked out until she was 38 weeks. It was fine. I had all the medical personnel checking me out and making sure I was safe. At no point was I putting the baby at risk or myself. I'm just adding that aside so that nobody freaks out because I was working out during my pregnancy. Anyway, even after all of that and going through labor and just experiencing the whole thing, even after all of that, even though all of that was mostly positive after I got through that first trimester, I came out of the experience, I get home, and then I realized, like, I'm too old for this. I'm too old for this. I'm serious. I know 38 is not really considered old, but I just kept thinking, like, come on, I am too old for this. Why did I make this choice? I'm too old for this. Listen, motherhood is a young woman's game. Here are the 3 reasons why I believe that motherhood is a young woman's game and I'm too old for this. Number 1, I am tarred physically, not tired, but tarred. I am tarred, like they say in the country. I'm physically tarred. Listen, I was in pretty good shape. I was a strength athlete, a CrossFitter. I could run a couple miles on a daily basis if I wanted to. Body was pretty good, heart in pretty good health. Still, this thing has kicked me in my teeth. Okay? I'm tarred physically. Reason number 2, this is a young woman's game. I'm tarred mentally. I have always been able to handle things when they were tough. I've always been able to get through things, to manage emotion and, handle things. Just I can think through problems. I don't really get rattled. Listen, you don't understand brain fog until you've been pregnant. I'm still waiting for all of my faculties to come back. I don't even know if they're coming. I hope they're returning, But mentally, pregnancy will have, and then motherhood will have you scattered. Your whole brain will be in different parts of the house, different parts of the city you live in, different parts of the world if you travel. And I can't promise you that they're ever coming back. Reason number 3, that motherhood is a young woman's game. I'm tired emotionally. Listen, I am not a crier. I'm not that person that just cries at the drop of a hat, that gets super emotional over everything. And even if I am emotional, you won't really see it come out on the outside. I've just never been that person. I don't physically like crying because it gives me a headache. And then I don't like crying in front of people because, bruh, that's none of your business. But seriously, motherhood, pregnancy and motherhood will turn you into a blubbering, snot-nosed, emotional mess. And you cannot control it. Okay? That's what happened to me. I was a hot, emotional... Wait, did I say was? I'm recovering in that area. But still, even now, I can be quite emotional. So that's the thing. Going through pregnancy and motherhood at 38, I'm like, I don't even know who thought that this was a good idea. Yep, I've gone to school. I've climbed the corporate ladder. I've been able to sort of, solidify my life and blah, 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 blah. But I am not sure still that it was the right decision to wait until now to have a baby. And here's the thing, I'm in it. He's here. The kid is here. Nothing I can do about it. But I just want to talk through the fact that I'm not sure that waiting was the right decision. Motherhood, young woman's game. Why? Because younger women have more bounce back in every single way. They've got stamina, they've got speed, and they've got strength. It's a lot to handle. You've got to be able to take some licks and keep ticking. You got to be able to hang in there. This is not a 2-round fight. This is 12 rounds of leaning on your opponent, leaning up against the ropes, begging the ref to put a stop to this. This is just a lot. And you got to have that stamina. Younger women have it. You have to be fast. Do you know how fast babies are when they start moving? I've never seen anything like it. How does this being with really short limbs, how are they able to outmaneuver you and outrun you? Like, it's so difficult to keep up with my kid. He doesn't even walk yet. It's just a lot. Younger women have more strength, like emotionally, physically. Listen, let me just tell you about my knees. I got down on the floor with my kid, and I do this every day because, he's little. You got to get down there with him, make sure he doesn't hurt himself. My knees, I stood up one time. I promise you, I think my knees said, "No, you go ahead. Now you try it again." And we're going to have to put you in timeout. Have you ever had your knees put you in timeout? I don't want that to happen. And let's not even talk about my lower back. Listen, I get it. I know. I understand. Lift with your legs, not with your back. I got all of that. But at the end of the day, you can't avoid the strain that it puts on your back with all the bending. My lower back had me at the chiropractor every single week for months, just getting my body to a point where I could function without feeling like I was going to fall apart. Younger women don't have these problems. Younger women also still have their full attention span. You know how when you were younger, you could do a million different things at one time and feel like you were giving each thing adequate attention. That's that young life. I don't have that anymore. No, I cannot, listen, I can't look at my phone to respond to a text message and also walk anymore. I wasn't quite this bad before the baby, but listen, now I just gotta, let's sit down, do one thing at a time. So yeah, younger women have physical, mental, and emotional stamina to do motherhood like champs. It just takes a lot more for a woman of advanced maternal age. Nah, I'm not bitter about that term. Whatever. But so all of that's true, but the primary reason why motherhood is a young woman's game, the biggest reason that I think it's better to have children younger is that the women who have kids younger will be younger longer. And that means that they'll be present, or they're more likely to be present during the important times in their children's lives. So all things considered, I really think teenage pregnancy got a bad rap. While I was saying that maybe I wanted to be a teacher or maybe I wanted to be an athlete, nobody said, hey, if you have a baby early, you'll be able to be in your child's life for a long time with your youth. Nobody was saying that to me. Nobody was saying like, yeah, the teacher, athlete, writer, all of that's good, but you might want to consider this too at 16 or 17. I really feel like teenage pregnancy got a bad rap. I'm the product of teenage pregnancy. I mean, when you take out the whole, my mom was 15 and didn't have a clue and she struggled to figure it out and me and my siblings had to grow up with her. But when you get past all of that, you can see the trade-off. My mom is only 56 years old and she's youthful and active in her grandchildren's lives. Her oldest grandchild is 16. She's present for all of that. The woman gets on the floor and plays with my son. She's 56. Do you know how old I'll be when my son has a kid? Okay, if he's smart and gets started as a teenager, I'd be like 59. But more than likely, I'll be well into my 60s. And the way my knees and back are set up, I already told you about that. I ain't finna be rolling on the floor with this kid the way my mom does with my son. So yeah, I really think that I should have given teenage pregnancy more consideration. There are drawbacks. I get it, psychological, emotional, developmental. I understand all that. But there are also some benefits. Okay? Here's my disclaimer. I'm kidding. Kind of. Okay, I don't encourage teenage pregnancy. Grow up, get married, have as many babies as you want when you're responsible enough to care for them. Okay? And if you happen to get pregnant while you're still a teenager, it will be okay. And after you get through how hard it is and how you can't be out with your friends and all of that, you'll be 35. Your kid will be, much older, doing their own thing and all independent. And your friends will be all having to be advanced maternal age. You'll come out the winner. I'm just saying. Really, the idea for this topic just came from dealing with my son. I just wanted to do something lighthearted. My son is awesome, but he's a lot. Motherhood, parenting, it's a lot of work. And I have a great co-parent. My husband is awesome. He's involved and present, and he's my son's best friend. So I'm not doing this alone, and it's still very, very difficult. So I'm definitely not advocating for teenage pregnancy, What I am saying is you want to make sure that you are physically, emotionally, and mentally prepared to be physically, emotionally, and mentally kicked in your teeth on a daily basis as you figure it out. And the thing is, your kid doesn't care. Your kid just wants your love and wants to know that they can lean on you and that you're going to be there for them. So whatever your decision is, whenever you decide to have a child, think it through, plan, be prepared for none of that to matter, because when you really are in the trenches, it kind of all goes out the window. But whenever you do decide to have a child, I wish you all the best, and maybe we can have a play date. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Until next time, always remember to acknowledge your bias, but don't forget to ask where it comes from. Be well.